doctrine to study than this right here.
And you know how, if you've been to a wedding recently, it is an amazing thing. Every single time, it never fails when the music changes, right? And the minister says, okay, like this, and everybody stands up, and the doors in the back of the room open, right? And the bride comes through that door. And it never ceases to just be a stunning moment, right? Every single time. But here's something that I've grown in my appreciation for the last 10, 15 years as I've gotten a little older, and you all do this, I'm sure. If you're able to, of course you want to see the bride. Right? We all turn, maybe there's a tall person on the other side. You're like, okay, where's the bride? I want to see the bride. You're bending to see where the bride is. And you see the bride, and that's stunning. But you know what? I've grown in my love of seeing the groom at that moment, right? You want to see his face. You don't really care what he looks like. But you want to see his face, right? You want to see what the groom's face looks like. You look over at the groom, and when the bride is walking down the aisle, do you do that? Am I the only one who does this? Surely you do this sometimes. When the bride is halfway down, I want to see his face. Because there's something about seeing, sometimes you'll just see tears suddenly are coming down his face, perhaps. He's just got this stunned look of joy on his face. He's thinking, who made a mistake to let this happen? Like, what is going on right now that this is allowed to happen right now? Her dad is approving of this? What has happened? And so he's amazed. She's coming down to be handed to him for life. And there's something about seeing his face that tells you something about her, doesn't it? Not looking away from her and seeing his reaction to her tells you something about her, because it tells you about his valuing of her. And I don't want to stretch it too far, but that's kind of what's happening in this text. We look away from the one on the throne, and we look at all those around him worshiping him, and we see what they're doing in reaction to God, and their reaction tells us a lot more about God. Does that make sense? So now the camera angle shifts away from the throne to all those around the throne, and we're going to see these elders and angels and what they're doing, and it's going to, I hope, increase our awe of the one they're looking at, the one that they catch a glimpse of. So let's look here, and just to close things here, let's look back at the final response of these individuals before God's throne. Look with me at verse 10. Let me start in verse 9. And whenever the living creatures give glory and honor and thanks to him who is seated on the throne, who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders, remember they represent, I believe, all of God's people, fall down before him who is seated on the throne and worship him who lives forever and ever. They cast their crowns before the throne. So this is the moment where the bride is coming down the aisle, and we look back and we see the groom, we see the worshipers of God, and what are they doing? They are falling down. These amazing individuals are falling down before the throne. They collapse before God's throne. They're not worthy to stand. And what do? The crowns that God has given them, which represent authority and whatever all they might represent, they say, God, we only have what we have because you gave it to us. We're going to take our crown off our head. We're going to throw it down at your feet because all the glory and goodness you give us, and he does. He's going to glorify us, right? Those whom he justified, he glorified. God is going to glorify you. That's in the Bible. That's in Romans 8. God is going to glorify you. You say, sounds blasphemous. No, it's true. He's going to glorify you. And guess what you're going to do with all your glory? You're going to throw it right back at the feet of Jesus, because none of that glory is going to ultimately terminate on me. It's not going to stop with me. Any glory we have is clearly not something we've merited. And at the end of the day, we cast the crown right back before God's feet. And we say, God, it all goes back to you. You get the glory for our glory. We throw our crown before your feet because we don't ultimately deserve it. We didn't merit it. You, by your sheer grace, have saved us, and we owe all and everything back to you.
We need to be practicing that right now.
Yes.
That we will do that perfectly in heaven. But
you
that
pray for us,
should be
Jerry?
I'd love to. Father, we are so grateful